Hello everybody and welcome to the second episode of Kato's Anime Cafe, where every Monday we sit down and discuss anything and everything anime. I'm your host Hoodie Song, as always joined by my partner in crime, Zero. Today's episode is brought to you by the Tax Defense Group. Due to the global pandemic, the deadline to file your taxes for 2019 was pushed back to July 15th, 2020. If you haven't filed for 2019 yet, there's good news. The Tax Defense Group can e-file your taxes for you. The process is quick, and for millions of people, you will get money back. So, what are you waiting for? Call the Tax Defense Group today at 800-850-7973 to get started. That number again is 800-850-7973, and you can visit them online at thetaxdefensegroup.com. Today's episode is also brought to you by Writer Junkie. Are you thinking about starting a business or a side hustle? For all businesses to be successful, you need a website. Writer Junkie offers website development, content writing, and SEO services for business websites. Call Writer Junkie today at 805-587-7966, and you can visit them online at writerjunkie.com. Again, the number is 805-587-7966, or visit them online at writerjunkie.com. Thank you to the Tax Defense Group and Writer Junkie for sponsoring this week's episode. Let's get back into it. Zero, every week on the Anime Cafe, we're going to be taking a look at some of the most popular threads on Reddit's r/anime and giving our hot takes on the conversation. Please grace us with those sweet silky baritones and read the first post.
Gladly. So, our first question: have you been more accepting of different types of anime the more you watch? It says, I used to be pretty stringent when it came to watching anime, but now I can watch genres I never would have imagined compared to when first starting off.
This comes from the Hiatus Saga on Reddit. It's an interesting question, because most people come to anime reluctantly. Or I guess if you're young enough, your mind's open and you're ready to jump into Naruto, whatever the popular shonen was when you were a kid. I don't know. But a lot of other people who get into a little older are usually being hammered or badgered by a friend saying like, oh, come on, man, you got to try this. And they're usually coming from the perspective of, I'm not really about that anime stuff. So I think a lot of people who are into anime probably do have some change of perspective, some, realization that what they thought this was is different from what it ended up being, and thus are more accepting. I will say personally that wasn't the case for me, so I actually didn't have too strong of an answer for this. The only thing I could come up with was K-On! Because I very much was not into like cute girl moe shit when we first started getting into anime as a kid, and honestly I probably still am not today. Like, I don't really seek it out. There's maybe
we don't
maybe
seek
an anime
it out,
or two pops up where I'm like, oh, I'll check that out, but by and large it's mostly just been K-On! But K-On! By itself has impressed me in a way that most other moe haven't, and I wouldn't have expected a moe anime to have. Have you seen it?
K-On! I have not seen much of.
The only reason I ended up watching it, well, I will give a little bit of credit here to Digibro, or Digine, who is, if you guys don't know, an anime analysis channel who focuses mostly on, that was in the title, anime analysis. She is a pretty huge fan of the show, and I don't think she by herself convinced me to watch it, but it did open up the door to be like, this is a show that a smart person could watch. So at least it tore down the wall, and then the eventual choice I made to take a step outside and really see what this anime had to offer was because of an r/anime post where someone posted the first couple of minutes of season 2, I think, which is where we see this has been a couple years at this point, so I don't remember the names. One of the characters is in the room by herself playing the guitar, and I just remember watching the directing and the, not even animation. I think lots of anime have great animation, but specifically just the camera placement, the framing, the composition, the lighting. To me, that all showed that there was actually something to this anime beyond just cute girls doing cute shit, which is great. They are cute girls, they are doing cute shit, but beyond that, it was actually just a well-made anime, and that convinced me to watch it, and that held up being pretty much true, and I ended up really enjoying it.
I'm glad you're able to expand your anime palette.
What is an anime that you would not have watched when you first started, but have been pleasantly surprised by?
Well, when I first started watching anime, I got in through, like, Cartoon Network / Adult Swim, Toonami, Saturday night anime, which is predominantly, shonen. It's aimed at the same demographic as Cartoon Network's regular programming. So, I began thinking of anime as dudes hitting each other with swords, that sort of dimension. But, as I matured and started seeking out anime of my own, I started noticing, hey, there are a lot of shows that aren't about hitting people with swords. And, I still don't like those shows as much, but there's certainly many of them that I've come to appreciate.
Well, the main one, I would say, is almost obviously Death Note, right? I mean, this is a show that, you would have gotten to it early on, but if we're talking about shows that aren't just about fighting, it is very much, in a lot of ways, it is the quintessential non-battle battle anime, but there is no swords.
Yes.
There is no,
there are no swords.
or anything.
Very little hitting people. So I guess, yes, Death Note would be the first divergent show in my young anime viewing. But I feel like it's not that separate from shonen. I'm trying to remember
still
the first
Shonen Jump, so yeah, I guess there's enough similarity there that it wouldn't surprise me that someone would that would be something that they ended up liking if they were super into battle shonen and whatnot. Here's a question I have for you though: is what's an anime that you've seen and enjoyed that if a younger you knew, they'd be like, "What the hell?" What is tell me you love idol anime or something, you're just a huge idol fan.
Yeah, that's the thing. I personally have not stepped far enough outside of my comfort zone to really have a good answer to that ready. I'd say probably the closest answer would just be sports anime, because as a kid, I probably wouldn't have watched something like Haikyuu, which is an anime about a sport, which I already wouldn't watch, and it's a sport I don't even care about, so why would I watch it? And then it ends up being amazing.
To be fair, Haikyuu was something you were even recently we're still really hesitant to get to. I had to make deals with you. This was as recent as 3 years ago. I had to make deals with you to be like, all right, what do I have to do to get you to watch this show? And it was I will watch all of Kuroko. I will watch the entire thing if you just watch Haikyuu, please. So even as an adult, it wasn't just. It was definitely not something you were readily, let's dive in and see what this is about. It took a lot of convincing.
Yeah, before Haikyuu or Kuroko, the only kind of sports anime I would have gone out of my way to watch would have been Hajime no Ippo or something in that vein, where there's still hitting people involved. There's also a kendo. Oh wait, the first anime that I ever watched that was completely out of my comfort zone was actually Peach Girl. Do you remember Peach Girl?
I have no idea what that is.
Okay, well, it's sort of... I imagine it's considered a standard shoujo show, where it's mostly about this high school girl's sort of social relationships, romantic relationships, and, it's one of those which hunky boy is she gonna choose in the end type shows. And even describing it, it sounds like something I would have no interest in. But the plot was very riveting. There was a lot happening, and I was always just damn, what is this crazy gonna do next?
Well, you describe this, and it doesn't sound like something you would like. But here's where, there's a little side of you that maybe most people don't know about, which is that, as a kid, you were watching Host Club, or in high school Host Club, that is something I didn't know about you until we started the channel, and you wanted to make a video on it, and I was like, this is something you've not only seen but enough that you want to talk about, and it was.
Yeah, so the weird shows that I watched as a kid were Host Club, Peach Girl, and Fruits Basket.
Yeah, that's what I was going to bring up.
Aside from those
does Fruits
three
Basket
shows,
have any place in this story? Because it feels like it would.
yes, and those were the three girly shows that I watched. But they haven't really convinced me to, like, expand my taste to those genres. Maybe I'm just still closed-minded, but I still mostly watch shonen stuff.
Yeah, I was thinking maybe Kaguya-sama, which is a currently airing anime that might be a little out of left field for me. But even then, I was thinking, like, as a kid, I was definitely super into battle shonen. But there was also a part of me that, like, you know, maybe not everyone will agree with me, but I feel like a lot of people back then were into School Days, and so was I. You know, like that shit was crack to me. So like, it's not. I'm not that. Let me be clear here. Kaguya-sama is not School Days. They're very different. School Days is complete garbage. Kaguya-sama is actually really good. But my point is that, like, the seeds of romance, the desire to be engrossed into these characters' romantic lives was there even when I was a kid with something like School Days. And I think there's another one about, like, not furries in the literal sense, but they were like cat girls and maybe like a fox girl. I can't remember. It started with a K. I can only think of K on it. It was Kanokon. There was another one of those when I was a kid. It was just, I mean, I don't know if it was as trashy as School Days, but it was along those lines of just, you know, trashy harem anime, whatever. And that's not like I said, that's not the same as Kaguya-sama. I think Kaguya-sama, you know, as an adult now, I do think that is a genuinely good show, and I think that reflects on how many people like it. But I think the seeds for me to like Kaguya-sama were planted even back then. So to me, even something like that, I think I had diverse enough taste that it's not like necessarily a surprise that I eventually got into it.
Yeah, they're more like aesthetic exceptions to our tastes than, you know, like expanding it. At least in the
anime
examples
that you
we gave.
Are kind of like surprised you still like, you know, that like it's well, I guess maybe not surprising, but to think that Naruto still plays a role in my life to this very day is something that I don't know if I'm disappointed by, but I'm sure many of my family are. You know, like I'm sure my grandparents like, come on, really, still?
You're still watching that Naruto show? Personally, I'd say there aren't many shows that from my childhood that don't surprise me that I'm still interested in them. Like, aside from maybe Death Note, Full Metal Alchemist, and I guess Code Geass, there's like nothing from my childhood that I would expect to still enjoy based on the criteria that I look for in my favorite shows. But I still love DBZ. I still love Naruto. I still love Bleach. You know, just give me that dumb battle shonen shit, man.
Yeah, if there's anything you could find plentiful in anime fans is a complete reluctance to grow up. You know,
absolutely.
refuse. All right, let me read the other Reddit thread by Kyle R9173, which says, "What anime opinion do you see that immediately makes you lose respect for the poster?" We all have one, I think. What's a praise or criticism that you see that instantly makes you think, this guy is full of shit? I didn't read too many comments on this one, so if you did and there's one that you wanted to share, go ahead and interject. But I actually struggled to come up with one for a little bit because I'm not like super opinionated or controversial on a lot of specific anime, you know, like, oh, if you like Attack on Titan, you're dumb, you know, to each their own. I'm pretty accepting of that. So, but there was a couple that I came up with that I feel maybe more encompass the meta opinions of anime fandom. And one of them that I wanted to bring up was the 3-episode rule. This is maybe my least favorite rules, or, you know, rules, opinions, whatever, that seems, you know, it doesn't exist solely in anime fandom, but it seems like it sort of originated there and is most popular here, which is that when you start a new anime, you got to give it 3 episodes before you drop it. And I think that is the dumbest I have ever heard.
It is, like, kind of absurd that people seem to, like, hold this idea in such high regard that it's almost treated as objective fact. Like, people in the anime community really think that if you haven't seen 3 episodes, you're not allowed to criticize the show. And
there's a great video by Digi which points out how, this is like years ago, I wouldn't even know where to find it. It's a vlog, I think, where they take a list of all the anime that come out every season, and then all the anime that come out every year. And I'm like, if you were to watch the first 3 episodes of every single anime, how long of your life would be wasted? And it's like, so much anime comes out, and there's so much history behind this medium. You know, there's so many years of great anime. There's so many great classic anime. If I were to give them all 3 episodes, I would have literally no time for anything else. I probably wouldn't even have time to revisit classics if I was only doing that with seasonals. It's a rule that I honestly don't even really understand where it comes from. Because one episode I don't agree with, but I could at least understand, right? Like, I think I'm giving a show as long as I care. You know, like, if it doesn't grab me within the first minute, then I'll turn it off. I don't have any, you know, obligations arbitrarily assigned to this shit. So I'm ready to drop something the second it pops on if it doesn't impress me. But at least with 1 episode, I understand. I have no idea where 3 episodes comes from.
It's because they originally deemed that 1 episode wasn't enough, and then 2 episodes wasn't enough, and 4 is like, can we really expect them to watch 4 episodes? So they settled on 3.
I mean, listen, 10 years from now, it's going to be a sliding scale. And I already see it sometimes. I already see it where it's like, I mean, come on, what? You haven't seen the entire show? You know, like, I mean, we see this. And to move away from anime for a little bit, this is less harsh, but people talk all the time about, like, oh, come on, you got to get to season 4 of Supernatural. You got to get to season whatever of whatever. It's like, you're talking about entire seasons, not like this is so
I always say, like, you gotta give it the 3-season test.
How little do you have going on that this is something that you think is reasonable for any human being to hold themselves to?
If you don't give it the 3-season test, you're really not trying to enjoy the show, if you ask me.
All right, anyways, what's an anime opinion that you do not respect?
Well, for me, you mentioned that you're not a very opinionated person when it comes to anime. I kind of am. Like, I certainly acknowledge the subjectivity of enjoyment of art. However, there are certain things that if someone says them, I'm like, this person just, they're a degenerate. That's the only reaction that it gives me, which is the number one thing anyone can say in that regard is Death Note ends on episode 26. If you say that, you're a degenerate to me. And I'm sure the Hunter x Hunter 2011 Dick Writing Association will hear this eventually. So, you.
And just to give some background here, that episode of the anime is of Death Note is where L dies, and which many consider. So the sentiment, many consider that to be like the end of when the show is good. They don't like the introduction of Nier and Mello, and you know, listen, we all have our opinions on that.
Sure, and I say, the sentiment that I take issue with is that you should just stop watching the show at that point because Death Note is over. And more general stances that I don't really appreciate, sort of similar to the 3-episode rule list, is that the idea that anime is getting worse or the idea that anime is getting better. I feel like saying either of these ideas with any degree of confidence is sort of, I mean, maybe there is someone who's like informed enough to actually make that assessment, but it seems to me that even if you had seen all of the history of anime, it seems to me that that's an evaluation that you can't really make. So when people say, you know, a lot more trash anime is being made these days, or, you know, anything from 20 years ago isn't worth watching, I feel like both statements are misguided.
What I think is the real issue with those statements isn't whether or not they're true, it's that the people making them are almost definitely not qualified to be making them. I'm sure they're, like, I think it's probably an absurd statement to say that, yes, the quality of the animation industry has not changed even a modicum. There's no budge in quality over 60 years. I think that's probably a stupid thing to say. But at the same time, the people who are like, oh yeah, it's definitely getting worse. Oh yeah, it's definitely getting better. I don't think those are impossible statements to make. I think it's like, okay, well, that's a pretty crazy thing to say. What is the reasoning behind that? And I think someone could make it like,
you'd have to have a good argument.
Someone like Pause and Select, who spends so much time into the cultural background of stuff like this, into like the significance of so many things, who's very educated and intelligent when it comes to topics like this, I would say could probably make a statement like that. And I would be interested to hear the argument. And even then, it wouldn't be like, of course, it wouldn't be objective or anything, but it would be an interesting argument to hear. But when some rando on r/anime talks about how many shitty seasonals are coming out, well, it's like, you just don't know what was seasonal back 40 years ago. We don't know what was happening back then, because you forget about the shitters.
Yes, history only remembers the outstanding examples. And I think that, again, there is probably an evaluation you could make in one direction or the other. Has the anime industry, improved? But I think you'd have to, be specific about what categories you're talking about. In which ways it's seen improvement and in which ways it's taken steps backwards. And I feel like people who say this are just trying to dismiss the content that they're not interested in.
I'm inclined to agree. I don't think we are 100% aligned on this, but I do think we are mostly aligned on this, and I think I ultimately agree with you. I did have an idea for an opinion. I didn't write this down. It just came to me. And it's a very specific one. It's not a meta one. It's about a specific show, and it's about My Hero Academia, which is that if you genuinely thought Bakugo was going to be a terrible character, or if you genuinely think Bakugo is a terrible character now, what the is wrong with you? There's this sentiment, and we've talked about this before. I don't know if we've ever talked about it on recording or anything, but there's this sentiment among My Hero Academia fans, because I think that it is such a normie anime, and I don't mean that derogatorily, but it is an anime that has reached Western fandom in a way that most other anime haven't recently. So for a lot of Western fans, it is their first anime. I think so many people watching My Hero Academia don't have any cultural context for anime, don't have any idea of the tropes that build anime and that where those tropes may lead. And they say some of the dumbest shit ever. And it's like, if you couldn't see the writing on the wall, I guess I want to temper this. I don't blame anyone for being a new anime fan. If they're a new anime fan and they're just picking things up, and maybe they don't look at things in the way that they were intended, or not even intended, that everyone's entitled to their own subjective perspective on things. But I don't know. It just bothers me when I could tell the way someone phrases their opinion about My Hero Academia, that this is the first anime they've ever seen, or it's one of the first, and they're just getting into this, and they don't really know. And it just bothers me sometimes. And maybe that's elitist. Well, maybe that is elitist. You know what? Maybe it is.
I definitely think there's a little elitism in all of us, and especially when it comes to the anime community. But I personally try to curb that. I think people who say, oh, your favorite show's this, that's entry-level shit, are... They're just bullies.
Well, yeah. Here's why I want to add a caveat is that I like My Hero Academia, so I'm not. Don't take this in any way saying oh, My Hero Academia is too normie. I don't watch that shit. You guys, have fun with your baby anime. That's not where I'm coming from. I think you can enjoy My Hero Academia. I think I enjoy My Hero Academia. We had this conversation about Demon Slayer last time. Same thing about Demon Slayer. Enjoy whatever you want to enjoy. I'm not taking that away from you. But I guess what I'm saying is, if you don't know what you're talking about, don't talk to me.
That's a pretty bold statement, because neither of us really know what we're talking about.
Oh, for sure. I mean, I'm the most uneducated on the anime industry that you possibly could be in my position. I mean, it's almost embarrassing. You read our comments and man, I'm starting to think that this Hoodie guy might be a normie. I don't think he's seen any anime ever. And you know what? You're right. Maybe you're right.
It's sort of weird, thinking about how many different anime we've watched, and still sort of feeling like it's such a small percentage of anime that we just know nothing, you know?
There's just so much anime out there, which goes back to what I was saying about the 3-episode rule, which is like why it's so impossible to uphold this rule is the fact that I don't know if you can compare it to TV because I don't know how many TV shows are being made. But the thing about anime is that at least the anime that, you hear about on Reddit that the anime fandom talks about, there's TV that no one would expect me to watch. There are very few anime that no one would expect me to watch. Most anime is on an equal playing field in that regard. So it's hard to be expected to watch this many shows. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, definitely. And it's also hard to know, like, which shows are the ones you should or, like, have to watch. Because that, that list shifts from, each anime expert you ask.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, when you go back, this is, like, beyond even just the shows that are coming out now, even going back to older shows. And you have people that I respect, like, the folks behind Shonen Ronin who are the most anti Evangelion fans that I've ever seen. I didn't realize it was possible. But you have people like that who I respect who are like, oh yeah, Ava's not worth your time. And it's like, if we can't come to a consensus about Evangelion, then how am I supposed to know? How am I supposed to know anything?
Yeah, if you're telling me Evangelion sucks, I might as well never watch anime again.
Do you have one more opinion that you don't respect? Or before we wrap this up?
I mean, I just have, like, a lot of small ones, like, I guess Kakashi is a bad character. Like, things that are just, like, my personal taste, and if you disagree with them, I will argue about it with you all day. But nothing,
What even is an argument for Kakashi being a bad character? Like, I don't even know what you would say. He's just so cool.
The arguments are actually very lame. It's stuff like, he jobs every fight, he never accomplishes anything. Really, like, consequentialist ideas, and it's like, obviously, given his role in the story, he's not going to be allowed to accomplish that much, but they hold it against him nonetheless, and they think he's like a scrub, or weak, or a bad ninja, or a bad teacher, because of the events of the plot.
That's also one of the things that bothers me, is people who look at anime characters and judge them, and I'm going to be careful. It bothers me, but I have friends who do this, so it's not clearly not the end of the world. But it does bother me when people look at characters from the perspective of humans as opposed to functions in a story. So when someone says, yeah, I hate Kakashi, he's the worst because I hate people who wear masks. It's like, okay, listen, you're entitled to not like any human being for whatever reason. If you don't like human beings who wear masks, whatever. But that's not a criticism of this character and the reason he wears a mask, or what the purpose of that is for the story and what that adds to the story. I just wish, and I feel like this is something that's been starting more within the past couple of years, and it's just only getting worse from my perspective, which is people just only criticizing and talking about characters from the perspective of whether or not we would like them as human beings and whether or not we'd be friends with them, instead of saying, what does this character do for the narrative? And I think, the obvious things, I don't want to drudge back into My Hero Academia, but this even happens for things like Hunter x Hunter, where there's so much discourse about Hisoka and whether or not Hisoka's a pedophile and whether or not he's terrible. And it's like, why the is this even happening? Is Hisoka a good character? That's what I want to talk about. And maybe this is just different crowds. I don't know. Maybe I'm just in the wrong crowds. But I don't care about whether or not you agree with the morals of Hisoka, because the show is never presenting Hisoka as a morally righteous character.
Exactly. This is actually... There was a comment in a similar vein on my most recent Legend of the Galactic Heroes video where someone just commented, Reinhardt's a terrible person. He just likes war. And I was inclined to just reply, yes, but he's a great character. And I ended up just, scrolling past, but it's like, why does that matter to you? It's...
I guess this week can be summarized with we hate everyone who watches anime.
Yes, absolutely.
All right, I think
subscribe for more.
This week's episode of Kato's Anime Cafe. I want to give a quick shout out again to this week's sponsors. Thank you, Writer Junkie and the Tax Defense Group, for sponsoring the Anime Cafe, and thank you to everyone listening. You can catch us uploading every Monday to UCast Studios' YouTube channel or your favorite podcast apps. I've been your host, Hoodie Song, with my partner Zero. Until next time.